Let's Go Green, sponsored by EirGrid, managing and operating Ireland's electricity grid for a cleaner energy future. Check out airgrid.ie for more.
Hello, you are very welcome to this week's episode of Let's Go Green here on Midlands 103. I'm your host, Aisling O'Rourke, and I hope you are safe and well as you tune in to us this week. On this week's show, we are going to be talking to Offaly's latest climate ambassadors. But first things first, if you've been feeling the cold, well, this first item is definitely for you. It is the time of year when we start getting a little bit worried about energy bills and we're feeling the cold, and a lot of us will be looking at our energy usage and, well, how long in the day can we turn the heat on for? Do we need to light the fire? And all of those conversations we have in our heads that do tend to cause a bit of stress. So with a view to trying and giving us some advice on that and to ease some of that pressure, we're joined now by Stephen Farrell from the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland. And Stephen is a project manager with the Retrofits team. Stephen, you're very welcome to the programme.
Thanks, Ashley. It's great to be here.
Now, Stephen, like when it comes to energy bills, like we tend to kind of nearly be, if we open the bill at all, we tend to be very nervous when we do it. It is something that causes a lot of stress for people, isn't it?
It is, for sure, and especially around this time of year. Like it's great during the summer, you've an electrical bill and a very minuscule heating bill, if any at all. But you find this time of year, and people start thinking around the September, October time, that the car starts saying, geez, I've the heating on, but I've turned it off, and a half an hour later the house is cold again, so you're going to put the heating back on again. So then you start kind of thinking about, oh God, I've the heating on a long time. What can I do to make things a bit more efficient and make that transition to a more comfortable, healthier home by reducing your energy bills and so on.
Yeah, and like and you know, we and you would hear people of, you know, maybe instead of turning on the heat, getting into bed an hour earlier, or, you know, doing things to really make things stretch. And, you know, nobody wants to be in that position. So if you are in a home that is, like if we focus on heating for a moment, that is heated maybe by, you know, oil-fired central heating. It might be a turf fire. Like you hear people like doing things like, well, just heating up one room in the house and letting the rest of the house be cold. Like, is that an efficient way of managing it?
Yeah, and people do that, unfortunately, and that's kind of the fact. But there's a lot of good kind of lightweight tips that you can apply to kind of a minimal effort, but can kind of have a good impact. So one of them would be to see how intelligent your heating system is. Like there's good heating control packages out there that will kind of break your home into different zones. So you might want to heat the downstairs up during the day and less at night, and the other way around. Or you might want to break the heating of your hot water and your space heating. So there's good heating control packages there that'll heat your zones when you need it. Another thing is that if people have thermostats in their house and they lower their thermostat, so we'd say typically for a hall or a living room, around 19 degrees is what we hear a lot of. For a bedroom, say, it could be 15 to 18 degrees. So a lot of people could have these thermostats up a bit high. So if they lower it by a degree, you could end up saving about 10% on your bill, wow, which is significant for just a small adjustment and so forth. There is that point, that fact, say, if people are in a bigger house and they find they're not using certain rooms, TRVs, control valves on the radiators. So that those rooms that you aren't in, maybe a few back bedrooms or a certain part of the house you don't be in a lot, reduce the temperature down on those radiators and focus on the rooms that you're in a lot. But a key point is, and it's very simple, and a lot of us kind of forget to do it, is get your boiler serviced annually. They'll come out, they'll have a look at your system and your settings. They'll make sure that the temperature is right. So for condensing boilers, that the temperature is adjusted so it actually condenses. So you're getting the maximum efficiency. So if you get your boiler serviced regularly, you could be getting a 10% more efficient boiler. So they're just key areas in terms of the heating side of things that people could apply. But the key thing is there's a lot of people in the house living in, it could be too warm and stuffy, but they just kind of maybe put on an extra layer and lower the temperature 1 degree, and it's probably a healthier environment to be living in.
Yeah, and on the getting the boiler service, like regardless of whether or not it's an oil-fired boiler or a gas boiler, even for a safety purpose, we should get them serviced every 12 months. And that, of course, and it's something that people tend to forget about, that includes if you have a gas fire as well, you need to get that checked.
100%. And on the safety side, and we all forget it, we're all busy. But in terms of thinking about your efficiency, and that translates to your bill and what you're paying every 2 months. If you get a registered plumber out to have a look at it, they'll look at the safety side, of course, and they'll also make sure the settings are set optimally, so you're getting the most out of it. The next we kind of tell people is, in SEI, we kind of tell people, okay, when you turn on your heating, you want the heat to stay in your house as long as possible. So that means that you can turn it off and the heat, it remains cozy and warm. So we kind of say, make sure your house is insulated. And there's very good grants there through our programs in terms of putting 300 mil in your attic, because generally your heat, when you turn on your heat, it'll rise and it'll go out through the attic. So if you have 300 mil of insulation in the attic, it'll stop that and reduce your heat from escaping. And it's the same with your walls. If you're lucky enough to have cavity wall construction, there's a team of registered installers that can go out and pump your cavities. And the grants are very good at 80% there. So I'd urge people to have a look on our website and look at the grants, because you can reduce your energy loss by 50-60% there, your heat loss by 50-60%. So they're relatively the cheaper retrofit measures in terms of 300 mil of insulation in your attic and insulating your walls, but you can get a maximum kind of impact out of it and so on. And then what we say to people, I suppose, is then to look at your heating system and see if you can make your heating system a bit more efficient. We're trying to drive people and move people towards saying goodbye to fossil fuels and moving to more cleaner, renewable technologies through heat pumps, which operate at a much higher efficiency. So your typical fossil fuel, oil or gas boiler could operate at a 80-90% efficiency, whereas our heat pumps, the air-to-water heat pump, for example, could operate at a 350% efficiency. So for 1 unit you're paying for, you're getting 4 units of heat energy, which is excellent value.
And like so on something like that, so it's like, say, like, and I know because, it would have been done in my home house now many years ago, but like you can get the attic insulated or the walls pumped, and there's not that much disruption to the physical. Now, I know it means you probably have to empty the attic, and like no one wants to do that. But it's probably a good thing to be doing as well at the same time. You can marry conduit before it goes back in. But for changing the heating system, or going to a pump as opposed to a boiler, like if you have, say, like the average 3-bed semi-D, and you don't have a utility room, or how much mess is involved in something like that?
Yeah, it's a great question, and people immediately kind of think, okay, the attic is fairly, the installers go in and out and it's up in the attic and so forth. There would be, in terms of getting a registered installer in, an SEI registered installer in, there could be 2 days rearranging putting in the system, the heating system and so forth. And there could be an extra day and a half or so on top of that, looking at the radiators. But most houses will have a hot water cylinder in a 3-bed semi-D, for example. So with a heat pump, the indoor unit part of the heat pump will replace where the hot water cylinder is.
Okay.
So you're not introducing a new utility space. They actually take out the old and they'll put in the new, and they'll do the pipe work. In terms of, because the heat pump will operate at a slightly lower temperature than, say, a traditional gas boiler or oil boiler, they need to assess your radiators, because the lower the temperature flow in the radiator, you might need a slightly bigger radiator. But there's a lot of good solutions there that are compatible with 3-bed semi-Ds and so forth. So there's a bit of disruption like you would have if you were changing an oil or gas boiler, and so on. But the installers are very used to working in live environments, Aisling, and they're very conscious that people need kind of their heat on very fast afterwards as well. So I'd say 3 days would see the bulk of the work done.
So you're not necessarily ripping up floorboards or needing to build an outhouse, because I think sometimes when we're very used to how our house works, we can be very nervous about any kind of changes to it, and we can catastrophize in our heads.
It and so forth, and you put it off, and you'll think, oh, there's a better time to do that. But no, the new system, the new heat pump technology system that's installed in the homes, they slot nicely into where the other heating system appliances were. And in terms of, it's a great point about the ripping up the floors. Now, 95% of our homeowners who get a heat pump grant and a new heat pump installed, they remain in the house. And all they do is have a look at the radiators to see if they need to be updated or upgraded or not. And a lot of times they don't, but in some occasions they do. So there's no need to leave the house. The only people that generally leave the house, if they're getting a larger piece of work done and they want to break up the floors and put in underfloor insulation, but it's a decision they make. But 95% of the homeowners that get heat pumps installed, they work perfectly fine with your radiators in terms of the heat emitters.
Okay, fantastic. So then, like, if you try, say you go, maybe you might do the insulation first, and you might do the heat pump, and that will then solve the heating for you. In that it'll be less stressful at this time of year because you'll be having to spend, the bills will be less.
Exactly. The key thing is when you're turning on your heat, the heat is staying in your house. So you're turning on your heating system less, and that will translate into reduced carbon, reduced emissions, and reduced bills, which is where we all need to get to for the environment and for yourself in terms of the efficiency of your heating system and the costs and so forth. So what we say then is, because you've insulated your house and you've a good efficient heating system in step 2, then you can look at solar PV or solar thermal in terms of generating renewable electricity and so forth. And that's very popular these days as well. But there's a number of routes homeowners can consider within the programs. And I suppose if people are out there trying to decide, oh, where will I go? How will I start this? We've an excellent our BR assessors will come out, and they'll go out and they'll assess your home to see where it is in terms of that BR scale from a G to an A, and they'll be able to recommend you on a good retrofit path as well.
Well, Stephen, on that note, we might, Stephen has very kindly agreed to stay with us in the programme so we can have a full conversation on this. So if you're thinking about, because it is the time of year we start thinking about, well, what am I going to do next year and what might need to be in the budget for 2026. So Stephen Farrell of the SEAI has agreed to stay with us, and we will be back in a few moments' time to continue this conversation about, well, trying to reduce our energy bills in 2026. Stay tuned.
Let's Go Green, sponsored by EirGrid, managing and operating Ireland's electricity grid for a cleaner energy future. Check out airgrid.ie for more.
You're listening to Let's Go Green here on Midlands 103, and we are joined this week by Stephen Farrell. Stephen is a project manager in the retrofitting section of the SEAI, the Sustainable Energy Authority of Ireland. And before the break, we were talking about the tips that Stephen had for us to try and keep our homes warmer for longer and reduce our energy bills. Now, Stephen, I do want to get into the different the grants that we can apply for, but just before we do, I have to ask, given the time of year that we're in, and I hold my hands up, I love this time of year. My house is lit up like it can be seen from space because I just get a kick out of it, but I'm nervous about my energy bills. So how do we, when it comes to electricity, what should we be doing? Because you hear all of these things of, oh, you shouldn't leave a mobile phone charger plugged into the socket. You should unplug it, or you should put things on timers, and it can be a little bit, confusing for people. So give us your top tips for electricity and cutting the costs electricity-wise.
Yeah, it's a great question, and you're kind of thinking everyone turns a light on and they walk out of a room, and 2 hours later they realise they left the light on. So it's become more aware of where the electricity is being used. It's an important space because about 20% of our energy and costs are linked to electricity and the appliances and so forth. But when I'm asked that question, I kind of think to myself, well, how it's really a behavioural thing. and so forth, and kind of everyone is in a rush. But I suppose one key area is what I kind of see is a lot of people leave stuff on standby in their house, like their TV, certain the dishwashers, their appliances, and 20%, there's a 20% load there. So people should be looking to unplug their appliances before they go up to bed at night, or get into a habit to unplug them if they're not using them. In terms of, I suppose a lot of it is, and it kind of reverts back to heating your hot water and that dreaded immersion, and leaving the immersion on to heat your hot water. And that'll create anything that makes something warm and hot very fast is costly. So I revert back to the heating controls to step away from turning on the immersion and maybe get controls set up so your central heating system heats your hot water and so forth. And then it's kind of looking at your eco modes in terms of your dishwashers and so forth. A lot of people will put heating on, or put, say, a wash cycle on for 30 minutes because they're busy and they want it done. But maybe if they have a bit of time, switch to the eco mode. Yeah. It goes on for longer, but the temperature is on for less. So all those little things reduce your electricity usage and so forth. So they're just a few tips that people can kind of consider. So they're very small, but hopefully they're kind of, it's just that awareness piece, Aisling, that people need to be thinking about.
What about timers for lights and that? Like, say, even for the Christmas tree, like you don't need to have it lit up during the day, like unless you're actually in the house all day. But really, it's only for the evening times that you want to be able to see it lit up.
Correct.
Are they helpful in terms of keeping your bills down?
They are, and everything will help, because the timers, like we've all left stuff on and we've kind of realized, oh God, I haven't been in that room, or I haven't been in watching the TV, or the lights have been left on all night. And there's excellent smart technologies out there that get people to kind of, you know, the way people get distracted, but they'll be conscious for you. And at a particular time, it'll be timed to turn the lights off. And even going back to your appliances, you can actually have these appliances now, and technology has developed where you can time your washing machine and your dishwashers to come on at different times of the day and night, and so forth. And then moving on to a lot of people, about 2 million people now, million homes have smart meters. And the smart meters are great because they'll tell people, so people will see in real time where their electrical consumption is in their house. So if they have the information, they can learn from it. And people are great at looking at apps and so forth to see that they've used a lot of electricity between 7 and 9 in the morning. And they've used a lot of electricity between 5 and 7 in the morning, when electricity is most expensive.
Yeah.
And so forth. And then they can adjust their behavior and maybe get tariffs from their electrical supplier to suit them moving from those peak times. So there's a lot of technology out there, and over the next year or two, it'll become more and more advanced. That'll be a bit of a game changer. But I think awareness and knowledge where people are consuming their their consumption will be key.
I like to have things on timers myself because, you know, routines change and all of that, but at least I know for security that like a light will come on or anything like that. But also the fact that they have, like, and I do have, and I'm not going to mention it because if I do, the smart speaker is going to start talking to us. But I have like a system where it's like, hey, Tom, for want of a better, it's not called Tom, but you know what I mean? I can say like, you know, good night now, and it'll turn things off for me as well. So it's that extra thing, because it's so easy to forget to turn off the light in the downstairs toilet under the stairs or whatever it might be. Now, Stephen, the SEAI, there are a number of grants that are available and different packages, and you know, there's also different benefits maybe if you're a social welfare recipient. And sometimes when we look at these things, it can be because of our houses and because of the nature of our building stock. A lot of people are in individual homes. They're not in a developer-built estate. So it can be very hard to know what the best option for me and my house and my family is. So if you're considering doing a retrofit in 2026, where's the starting point?
It's a great question, and there's so much information out there. What I would do is I'd urge people to go onto our website and look on the grant section. And you're brought to there's three avenues you're brought to. The first section it's called the Better Energy Home Scheme. And that's for people who may want to energy retrofit their home energy upgrades on a piece by piece basis. So measure by measure basis. They might want to do attic insulation in year 1. cavity wall in year 2, a heat pump in year 4, and so forth, at their own pace. They can go into that part of the website, they can select one of our registered contractors, get 3 quotes, say if there's 3 registered contractors in their area, and so forth, and there's an automatic letter of approval. And they get a letter saying the grant is X for each measure. They get the works done, a declaration of work is signed, and the grant payment is made 4 to 6 weeks later. Now, a lot of before all that happens, it's always good advice that the homeowner maybe engages a BR assessor. So they'll come out and they look at their house and they'll do a BR assessment. They'll give them a very good advisory report, telling them where their home is performing well and what measures they can focus on. And then following that and that information, they go on and go into the Better Energy Homes part of our website, and they'll see the grants associated with each measure that the BR assessor has kind of advised them on. And then they select a contractor to do that. So that's if you don't have a huge amount of money and you want to do it over a project of 5 or 6 years.
Because I think
manage it yourself.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people are under the impression that you have to do everything all at once and you're going to need 40 or 50 or 60,000 euro to tackle it.
No. And a lot of people don't have that. There are other priorities and so forth, but they want to do their bit for the environment. They want to make their house a bit more cozy. So the Better Energy Homes program does it measure by measure. And you can do it over a 5-6 year period, depending on your budget. The second program we have is the one-stop shop program. And that leans into your comment, Ashley, in terms of getting everything done in the one go. So the one-stop shop program through our registered one-stop shops on our website, you'll see it as well. That is a whole house retrofit. And that works on average for, say, a detached house could be 60K.
Yeah.
But a typical grant associated with that work could be 24K. So the grants are very good, and there's a broad range of measures, including windows and doors, good ventilation systems, air tightness, and all that. And the beauty about that program is, albeit it's very expensive, the grant gets deducted up front. So say, for example, the cost of works was 60K and the grant was 25. The homeowner's finding 35. They're not finding 60, which can be too much. So the grants are fairly substantial. But on that one-stop shop approach, which is the second avenue, that's for homeowners who are kind of entering into a big 12-month project. They could have bought a new house and they want to do their upgrades before they move in, or there's just a bigger pot of money there, and they said, you know what, I'm going to make my house an A1 and future-proof it under one contract. And the second, and people can find out about that program on our website, but we have 26 or 27 registered one-stop shops in place. And they can contact them and get quotes and home energy assessments for them. And the third avenue then is the Warmer Homes program. So that's there to support a category group of people that's deemed energy poor. And so the qualifying criteria there, and I'd urge people to check this out because there's a fully funded program where your home gets home energy upgraded in terms of insulation and heating systems, fully funded by the government. But you need to be in receipt of certain social welfare allowances, and they're documented on the website. One or two of them, just to name a few, is the fuel allowance, the fuel allowance or the domiciliary care allowance, or disability allowance for over 6 months and a child under 7. So they're fairly detailed, but they're nicely listed out on our website. And we have a panel of registered contractors there as well who will go out and do that work. But SCI survey the house and so forth. So they're the 3 packages that people should kind of look at.
Now, when I bring this up in conversations with people, the one concern that people have is that if I go to so-and-so to get this retrofitting work done and I tell them I'm going to get the grant, well, sure, it's always a man that's blamed, actually, I should say. But generally speaking, in the anecdotal conversations, sure, he's going to add a couple of grand on top of that for the paperwork. And people are very nervous of it. That can't really happen, though, through the grant system, can it?
It can't, but that's just the nature of the market. But what we always say to homeowners, and it's so important to get 3 or 4 quotes. Yeah. And that can be hard and people just want the work done. But at least if you get 3 quotes, you'll know, do you know what? It's coming in around that ballpark for the 3 of them. And I suppose you're getting, if you go through SEI and get the grants, it's that extra quality assurance stamp. And like we inspect 20% of the work and so forth. So people will know that the system has been installed, so it's operating optimally. People will know I've got my attic insulation installed and I've adequate ventilation in place as well to keep my timbers and my attics fresh, and my tanks are insulated so they don't freeze. So there is that. So I'd urge people in those scenarios just to link in with our registered contractors, the SEI registered contractors, and get 3 or 4 quotes, or even 2 quotes, just to see. But don't be put off by, a lot of the times the extra cost may be money well spent in terms of the quality side, the warranty, the guarantee, the follow-up service, and so forth.
It is very important to make sure that any tradesperson that you do hire to do work inside your home is fully registered, and then you have that extra safety that they are registered with the SEAI, so that you know that it's all done to a good standard and it is actually safe if anything were ever to go wrong with the house. Stephen, all of that is available on SEAI, and we should say as well, and it's something that I discovered this year when I bought a house for the first time, is when you're going, and it's just for some, if anybody's planning on doing that in 2026, when you're getting the house and you're buying the house and you're going to have to get that building survey done anyway, ask for them to do a BER assessment, because you're thinking about retrofitting at some point in the future. Because actually when I got the survey back, it was full of, well, you could do this and you should do that. And that extra bit of information is all you really need to figure it all out and make it all a bit more manageable for yourself.
It is, and you get a really good advisory report associated with the BER, and it'll tell you what are the impactful measures, what measures to focus on in terms of the cost as well. And you get a lot of good information from the BER assessor as well. Yeah. So it's a great addition to a building condition survey if you're purchasing a new house. Because before you move in, you may say, I'm going to get 300 mil in the attic, or I'm going to get some work done inside with the heating and so on. And
you have to get the survey done, because it'll be madness not to get the survey done, because that, so you're going to spend so much money in the house. You might as well, while they're in the building, get bang for your buck, would be the way I would look at it. Get all of
economies of scale, Aisling, economies of scale.
Exactly, and there's only so many pennies to do the rounds. Well, listen, Stephen Farrell of the SEAI, project manager with the retrofit team. Stephen, thank you so much for taking us through all of that. And again, the registered list of installers, Stephen, and the grants are all available on seai.ie.
Correct.
Thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure.
We'll be back after the break.
Let's Go Green, sponsored by AirGrid, managing and operating Ireland's electricity grid for a cleaner energy future. Check out airgrid.ie for more.
You're listening to Let's Go Green here on Midlands 103. Now, we have new climate ambassadors in the Midlands. So the Climate Ambassador programme has been running for a number of years now, and across the Midlands we have had a number of people actually receive the ambassadorship in recent weeks. And to talk to us more about the programme, we are joined by Clare Faherty, who is the Sustainability Officer at the Sacred Heart School in Tullamore, and one of her students, Angie Sewell, who is a 5th-year student in the school. Ladies, you're very welcome to the programme.
Thank you very much,
Thank you for having us.
Clare, talk to me about the Climate Ambassador programme. What exactly is it?
So it's new to us here in the school, but it's run by An Taisce, who are a government organisation, everything to do with the climate, environment, sustainability. And we attended a training day in January in the Tullamore Court Hotel. There were 7 students and myself. And after the day's training, they had outlined the programme to us. And the condition of it was that you had to complete minimum 2 communications. So that could be, a poster, a leaflet, a podcast appearance. You could do something on social media, and then 2 activities as well. So for us as a group, that was quite easy to achieve. And between kind of February and May, we did around 30 activities. So we looked at maybe activities involving the community, involving our fellow students, fellow staff, anyone visiting the school, kind of what we could look at, maybe small actions, small movements, and then we kind of tried to scale it up as best as we could. So yeah, that was our approach to it.
Angie, what was your involvement?
So we got to be quite hands-on in the club. The main things that I love to do, we had these communications to fill out our communications quota. We had climate conversations with other climate ambassadors in our school. So they were from the locality in Offaly, usually over 60s about. And, we chat to them about what we could do going forward as a school, and applying to funds, applying to grants, and, social media initiatives, sustainability initiatives. So it was really great as the youth to connect with, the older people in our locality, because it kind of, it opened up that communicate, kind of connection.
And what kind of activities did you get up to?
Yeah, well, so firstly we had our uniform appeal. So we asked for, secondhand uniforms, anything spare that people had. I think Tesco
donated a couple of hundred shirts, actually brand new shirts. They were fantastic. And any of our outgoing 6th years, a lot of them donated their uniforms. So it's allowed us to set up a uniform bank for any students who need a uniform, families who maybe are in financial difficulty. We're able to provide that for them. So that was one of our big projects, probably one of our most successful ones.
And that's huge, because school uniforms can be very expensive, and when families need to buy the school uniform, it's at an expensive time of year. There's books and there's other bits and bobs that need to be bought as well. And I suppose for any of us who've left schools, we might have been very, very quick to dispose of the school uniform. And might as well go to somebody else if it's in good condition. And is that something then, Claire, I know it started as part of this, but will the school then be able to continue it?
Oh, absolutely. And it's actually been so successful that what we're planning on doing in August is a secondhand uniform sale. So where the uniforms are available at an affordable price for incoming students or current students. Because it's definitely something that it makes a difference. It's relatively easy for us to facilitate at the end of the day. And then in terms of, we're big on our circular economy here. So, it's one less uniform that's going into the bin or whatever happens to it when you graduate, and we're just doing our part to help reduce waste.
Now, there'll be plenty of teachers listening, and as someone who teaches in 3rd level, I know the workload of teachers. Okay, so but this sounds like it's quite an extra bit of work on top of your workload as it is. So and I'm sure Angie as well, you've got classwork and homework and all of that to keep up with. So for people who are listening to this, think this is a great idea in theory, but practically, how did you manage it all?
I think for us, it helped having a group.
Definitely,
if you have a couple of like-minded people, and for us, we just made it small, manageable tasks. And when we achieved them and we got used to working together, then we were able to expand on it. So in May, we did an e-waste recycling day that was for the community. And we recycled nearly a ton of electronic waste, batteries, computers or laptops broken, anything with a plug or a battery that was broken. People came in and donated it. And we did a bake sale as well to raise funds for our sustainability fund in the school. So it was kind of a dual benefit. But that was definitely our biggest event. The uniform appeal probably was big in nature as well, but just more gradual, spread over time. But like Angie was saying, the small events at the start, our climate conversations, got us talking with people, gave us ideas. We knew resources. We were able to make a link, the Offaly over 60s. Sinead McAvoy on Offaly County Council facilitated that for us. And that got us in touch with them. And then through that, Tidy Towns as well. So we were able to do a tree planting project with them for schools in the area. So it was just kind of, brainstorming, figuring out our different skill sets and utilising them as best as we could. I think this year we found it a bit more challenging because the girls came into 5th year and, after doing TY, it's a very intense year. So I think for everyone, we were just kind of aware of our workloads. We had a look at, class times that were less hectic, and if we could get a little meeting then or a lunchtime meeting. And we were just a little bit more strategic about our approach to this year.
And Angie, for yourself and your classmates and the other students that are on the team as part of all of this, how important is it to be active around climate issues?
I think it's so important because it promotes an awareness going into adulthood. I think I was at open day talks and every course has something about sustainability, whether it's business, computer science, it's always sustainability. It's a skill that we're going to need to be very aware of going into adulthood. And I think also it promotes a community kind of connection. I think, as we didn't want to take on the huge workload ourselves, so we got involved with our community. So promoting that, connection with youth in the community is so important. I think it keeps us kind of active in that sphere.
And I think that's wonderful to hear, because I think it would be fair to say, as Claire and I are not teenagers in this conversation, that those of us older than the teenage years are concerned about young people and their connection with the community that you live in, because your lives are so much focused on, screen time. So how did you have to convince your classmates to get involved, or, because it might not be, I suppose, the coolest thing to be talking about in school?
Yeah, well, we're starting an e-waste, I think it was a battery recycling initiative, and I think it was ESB. And what we've put out into each year group is this competition. So we've made it kind of fun. And I think the year group who collects the most batteries to be recycled gets a pizza party, some sort of award. It makes climate action not just a chore, but it makes it fun and like a thing for the whole school community to get involved in.
Amazing. And has this perhaps, because I know given the year that you're in school and you're heading towards the big exams and leaving the cert, we won't mention those just yet, but is it giving you maybe ideas as the kind of career you might have in the future?
Absolutely, yeah. I think I'm very focused on I really enjoy business, but I'm very focused on the sustainable development side of business. Any sort of career that I think of, and especially I think just with all the climate ambassadors in the school, we're always considering the sustainability side.
Yeah, 100%.
And Claire, that piece that we mentioned there about the connection with the community and keeping it's an all-girls school, connected to Tullamore town centre and all the activities. How important is that as a school community?
Oh, really, really important, because I think for us, it's just to, be able to let people see what we're doing, remind them what we're doing. It's easy for us to do a project in school and the community may not know about it. So I think the Climate Ambassador programme helped us extend what we were doing to the wider community, get people involved. Like Angie said, make those connections, make those links. And the programme might be finishing up for these girls, but we had 7 students last year, 34 students are after applying for it this year. So thanks to the work of these great ladies, they've really inspired a new group of students to get involved. In terms even the battery competition, I'm sure the pizza is quite the influence for it. But we've a second year group who are absolutely flying it. They've collected over 7,000 batteries in 2.5 weeks. So I don't think you'll find any spare batteries in Tullamore now, because if there were any, the second years got their hands on them. So, it's nice to see. And the proceeds for that go to the Laura Lynn Foundation. So it's a dual purpose, it reduces electronic waste, but then, it's for a really, really good cause at the end of the day. So it's nice to be able to merge the two together. And
we all have, in every house, there's that drawer of cables that you've kept in case you might need them at some point. But now it's been about 10 years and now you don't quite know what to do with them. So stuff, and the same with batteries, even though there's a safety issue, we really should be disposing of them promptly, as opposed to leaving them in the box in the cupboard that, I must get that at the weekend. So then you've got, it's grown from 7 now to over 30. Does that then, Claire, encourage a spirit of volunteerism amongst the students? Because I know from speaking with other volunteer groups around the Midlands about environmental issues, sometimes it can be quite difficult to encourage people in their busy lives to go out on a Wednesday night and pick up other people's litter. It's not the most attractive thing to be doing. So does it give them, I suppose, a taste of the benefit to themselves of being a volunteer and actually contributing to your community?
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose for us as well, the Climate Ambassadors really would be a subset of our Green team. So we have 83 students on our Green team. And then we have a Green committee as well. And that's staff members, members of the Board of Management and members of the Parents Committee. So it's kind of, at this stage now, it's woven into the school's fabric. I teach a module in transition year on sustainability. So, I had them for an hour for class earlier on today. And there was a group of them filling up 100 pots with soil because we're going to plant some tulips into that. There was another group of them going around the school, emptying out our return bins, cleaning out all the cans and bottles from that. And we had another group sorting all the clothes in the uniform store and sizing them up. So the students already, by the time they're coming towards TY, they know about the sustainability program in TY. And then we're seeing, especially this year, we've a lot of the junior years, first year, second years involved with Green Team already before they've even had a chance to experience it in transition year. So, it's been a few years in the making, but it's nice now to see it kind of spread throughout the year groups. And our sixth years are still involved as much as they can around their studies, because they've done it in TY and they still hang on to it and want to be involved in it. So it's definitely nice in that sense. And I suppose we're visible around the school. We have a lot of different projects that a lot of different students are involved in. So that definitely does help.
Now, Angie, on radio, we tend not to list out things, but given that there's only 7 of you, would you be able to give everybody a shout out? So who was on the team?
Okay, so me, Grace Ward, Migla, Fia Brennan, Howie O'Kello, Bryn Mulhall, Isabel Hayes.
That's the 7.
Yeah. Remember seeing one.
Well done. That's. I put you on the spot there with that, Angie. But listen, Angie Sewell and Clare Faherty of Sacred Heart in Tullamore, congratulations on becoming climate ambassadors. They're not the only group who've been recognised across the Midlands, and all of those details are available on Taishca's website. Thank you both for joining us on Let's Go Green.
Thanks,
Thank
Ashley.
you.
Thank you.
We'll be back after the break.
Let's Go Green, sponsored by AirGrid, managing and operating Ireland's electricity grid for a cleaner energy future. Check out airgrid.ie for more.
You're listening to Let's Go Green here on Midlands 103. I wanted to let you know that if you were inspired by our earlier interview with Angie and Clare from the Sacred Heart School in Tullamore, who were awarded National Climate Ambassador Awards, well, you can apply to take part next year. So you can go to it's managed by Taishca, but they have their own website for the programme. So if you go to climateambassador.ie, there is a link there where you can apply for the 2026 programme. Now, the catch is the deadline is this coming Wednesday. So if you're interested in it, get online now and get applying for the programme. It is really an interesting one, and like the starting point is just to communicate, like the two communications and the activities, like it is all very doable. Now I know in the Sacred Heart they've gone above and beyond that, but the starting point is very open and welcoming to anybody who might want to apply. I also wanted to mention the other climate ambassadors from the Midlands, and they are Michael Carroll from Tullamore Lions Club. And Michael, it said, has brought dedication, leadership and visibility to peatland conservation and has shown what's possible when passion meets action. Whereas Brian Meredith and Vito Romito from County Laois have joined the Climate Ambassador programme as friends, and their combined world for the natural world fueled their efforts for some truly brilliant climate and environmental change. They worked together with litter picks, environmental film screenings, apple tree planting and methane mitigation workshops. So they were also awarded for their efforts. And of course, there were a number of other climate ambassadors awarded in the last couple of weeks up and down the country. And it is wonderful to see all of these groups of people coming together to play their part in climate adaptation and mitigation measures. And if you would like to be a part of that, go to Climate Ambassador. Double check the spelling on that one, shouldn't I? Climate Ambassador, not S, as I am inclined to say, climateambassador.ie if you would like to apply for that. And the deadline is this coming Wednesday, December 10th. So you go onto the website, there is an online application form. Doesn't look too arduous, so it's not a particularly long night ahead if you're inclined to do it, but it is worthwhile and getting involved in that. Now look, here on the programme we are always looking for people to feature, items to talk about and questions to answer on your behalf. So if you would like to suggest an item for Let's Go Green here on Midlands 103, please do get in contact with me. You can email me directly, and my email is hello@thecommunicationscoach.ie, or you can contact the station, midlands103.com, or connect with me on LinkedIn and send me a private message. However is easiest for you, I am looking to hear from you. And I want to thank everyone who has gotten in contact with us here on Let's Go Green over the past 12 months. We will be shortly wrapping up for the year, but a big thank you to everybody who has worked with us over the past 12 months to make Let's Go Green the community-driven programme that you hear each and every week. Well, that's all we have time for on this week's episode of the show. I will be back same time next week here on Midlands 103 with another edition of Let's Go Green. But in the meantime, don't go too mad on the old festive shopping. Take it handy, stay safe, and we'll be back same time next week here on Midlands 103.
Let's Go Green, sponsored by EirGrid, managing and operating Ireland's electricity grid for a cleaner energy future. Check out airgrid.ie for more.